Hello, I'm Ashley and welcome to my space here. Today I am going to be talking about the father wound. um, this is something that I've had a lot of experience with and something that over the last 5 years, in my opinion, or the last 3 years mostly, I've done a lot of healing around my father wound that stem from um, my father actually being diagnosed with cancer 5 years ago. And that was a day that when I found that out, it was like my whole world literally completely crumbled right before my eyes. It was like timelines were collapsing, because I had such a idea of where my life was going, an idea of like my father being in my life. And so and basically I was living for him. What I really like to talk about actually today is the attachment wound and my attachment wound to my father and how I helped heal that with, you know, taking action, which is our masculine energy, which is healing my father wound, helped me to balance my masculine energy. So I think it's really important to heal your masculine energy, especially in the regards of like taking action to better your life. Like my masculine energy helped me to take action on my health, not just physically, but also mentally and emotionally, so that I could take action on things that were going to create more of like wellness in my life rather than, whereas, our imbalanced or distorted masculine energy would procrastinate or put those things off or completely neglect and ignore the emotional health, ignore the mental health, and really just look for that like immediate gratification, that ability to control. And one thing that Cancer gifted me with, because if I don't see Cancer as a gift, then really it makes me feel very powerless and very angry, very frustrated. And so what Cancer taught me is how to give up control. And if I look at my father wound, I had a lot of control issues because when we're in our distorted masculine energy or our imbalanced masculine energy, we want to control as a way to make us feel powerful, right? And so to feel like have control over our lives. That's what our masculine energy does. It helps us take control over our lives. But a lot of times we're taught to do this by like abusing ourselves, neglecting ourselves, putting ourselves on the back burner, and kind of like pushing forward no matter if we need to take a rest or take a break. But our masculine energy helps us take action on the things that on our intuitive guidance. So we'll receive information through our feminine energy, and then our masculine part of ourselves is the part that takes action on that guidance. So if we receive guidance, it's important to take action, and every time we receive guidance and we take action on it, we strengthen our inner divine masculine, which is the part of us that, like I said, it takes action on the part of us that keeps us being healthy, that helps us feel connected, that helps us feel empowered and strong and worthy. Our masculine energy is also about trust and learning how to trust our own instincts. So one thing that I kind of wanted to get into is when I was a child, my guides are kind of showing me when I formed this attachment wound to my father, because I've had a deep attachment wound that really impaired my intimate relationships, not just with myself, but also like with a potential partner. And I could see how it made me closed off, how because it didn't feel safe, that I wanted to push certain things away. This is like my ego. So we form like our masculine energy, like our father, the way he behaved, the way he talked to us becomes our internal voice and the internal behavior of our own masculine energy. So we internalize our father's energy as our own masculine energy. And if our father had a very distorted masculine energy, we will internalize that as our own. And we'll begin to neglect the divine masculine part of us that trusts its own instincts, that stands up for its beliefs, that feels very safe and very secure, very trusting, very stable. And so we kind of learn to abandon that part of us, and we learn to mimic the masculine energy that we're seeing in our physical world, whether that be your father or any other masculine caregiver that you had growing up. So what we begin to do is we begin to project our beliefs around stability, our beliefs around security, our beliefs around control, our beliefs around like money, the physical world. We begin to project that and we begin to project our stability onto something on the outside. So this happened to me. So about 6 years old, they're telling me that I began to form a very deep attachment wound to my father. And I formed an anxious attachment. My anxious attachment began, I began to have obsessive thoughts. So this is an anxious attachment, is when you have obsessive thoughts about somebody. So where sometimes you might see this in relationships where somebody's obsessively texting their partner all the time and is obsessed with where they're at and what they're doing. That's an anxious attachment wound. But what happens in childhood is I began to have obsessive thoughts of my father, of me losing my father, because I began to attach my safety and my security to him at that age. And so then I began to fear, what if I lose him? What am I going to do? I'm not going to feel safe. I'm not going to feel stable. I'm not going to feel loved. I'm not going to feel secure if I don't have my father with me. And because he became my attachment to the physical world. So I began to have obsessive thoughts of him dying, of him being hurt, of him being sick. And actually what I've been recognizing is that it was my worry, even as a child, that actually helped produce the manifestation of his illness, of the cancer. Because I was contributing to it by my obsessive worry, by my obsessive thoughts. So what Spirit has taught me and what my guides have taught me to heal my anxious attachment, because when I found out my dad had cancer, what did I want to do as his daughter? Take it away. I wanted to control it. I wanted it to not be happening, and I had no other choice at this point, because you can't control it, that I had to rely on something bigger than me, so a higher power. And what I had to learn is every time I would have obsessive thoughts about my father, dying, and I would get myself into an emotional frenzy, and I would start, bawling. And this lasted for a few years. I had to recognize this. Every time I would have obsessive thoughts about my father being sick or, him or losing him, I had to shift my mindset. And I had to shift my thoughts into a vibration of faith. So instead of imagining the worst case scenario, because I had been doing this since I was 6 years old, imagining the worst case scenario, about my father, and losing that security, losing that stability, because I had attached my belief system and my ideas of stability and security onto my father. So of course, if you have a deep attachment to that and then you lose it, you lose your sense of stability, you lose your sense of security. And this is when I began to collapse. And like I said, it was like my inner world began to collapse. There wasn't a lot of things happening on the outside except for the fact that, my dad was going through this, and I was beginning to grieve and beginning to start the process of what am I going to do without my father? Who would I be without my father? How am I going to feel stable without my father? How am I going to feel secure without my father? And so I had to begin to really develop my masculine energy so that I could feel safe without him, because I knew that one day I was not going to have him. And so I had to really begin to strengthen my masculine energy by learning how to take action on the things that were going to make me feel good, that were going to make me feel secure. And actually what happened is it was my health. By taking control of my health, which makes so much sense because in my family and in my bloodline and with my father being diagnosed with cancer, health was a really big issue. And I was obviously I was over 200 pounds at that time, easily, about 5 years ago when I found that out. So the only thing I had control over basically at that time was taking control of my health and taking control of my health, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally, and being able to take care of myself in those ways. So what I thought it was going to be, to me, what a father and what the masculine energy was intended and how we projected into our society kind of is the provider. So I was I was kind of confused at first about, it wasn't about generating stability externally, is what my spirit guides were showing me. It was about generating the feeling of stability internally, because then it could never be taken away from me. My father is going to be taken away from me. And that idea of stability is what crumbled my illusion of what stability truly is. And so it's not actually, something on the outside like a home or, money. That's what we consider stability. And generally, and I come from a privileged family, in my opinion. I mean, we were not wealthy and super rich, but I had everything provided for me physically, and financially. I had a nice home. I had an abundance of food, I went to a school. I was educated, I had a lot. I was given a lot of things that a lot of children don't even have access to or don't have the privilege to have. So although we were just middle class and, underneath it all, we were probably just getting by, with a, a regular middle class family. And my father really did have to work really hard. He also formed my beliefs around money and like a scarcity mindset, like a lack mindset. So like the imbalanced masculine will be like, it's not enough. And if it doesn't have enough on the outside, like money or stability or like a savings account, that imbalanced masculine will feel like it's not good enough. And then that will begin to be internalized, I'm not good enough. And so then the father in the home will project this into like, he's not doing enough. He's constantly trying to like overwork and burn himself out to the point of exhaustion that he has no time to, be present with his family to generate the feeling of stability. It's like searching on the outside to create that so that it gives them that feeling rather than cultivating that feeling on your own. So that's what I've been practicing and what my guides have been teaching me so that I feel stable within myself. So really getting myself to the mindset and then really getting my energy and my emotions into the energy of stability and security. And that's just like telling myself affirmations that like I am good enough, like I am strong, I am powerful. And it's funny because we think that a lot of our strength and our power and our masculine energy has been taught that comes from like control or, from sex or from, or from money and finances and like status and image. And that's a very distorted belief about the masculine. One thing that I've been actually receiving, because the masculine part of us is the part that is like the hunter, if you think about it. He's the navigator. He is the tracker. So you have to kind of think about it in like old school terms. That's kind of how I think about the beginning of time and how God created the masculine to be a specific way and how he created the feminine to be a specific way so that they could work in harmony, so that they could feel very balanced and secure and stable. So when we use those energies together, so let's say this is my example because like I said, I had a deep attachment wound. And when my father goes, I want to be able to, like move on my own potentially and like be on my own, travel. I would love to travel by myself. But one thing, that we see in our media and a lot of things that we're fed as young children, and I know that my father's, like for me, he protected me. He was always protecting me. Everything he did was always to protect me, but it also created like this bubble around me where I was like, the outside world is not safe. I am not safe. If I were to travel alone, I'm not safe. Like to be out in the world alone is not safe. That was kind of the idea that was instilled in me from early childhood. It's not like he was directly telling me that, but the way he like protected me was a way that like, so I couldn't ever get hurt, and it created a lot of like helplessness within me. And so, or a lot of fear, like I wasn't safe. Like I said, if I wasn't safe, if I didn't have my father. And so this became, a problem for me and learning how to, like, I would go jogging out on my own. I would go for walks in nature out on my own. And because I've had a lot of wounding from other lifetimes from masculines, and a lot of women have a lot of feminine energies, they've been wounded by the masculine in the past, and we really came to heal this energy within us. And we can't forgive the men that hurt us until we begin to heal and forgive our own selves for neglecting our own power, basically, and forgiving our power away. And like the only way we can forgive another masculine or forgive the masculine in general, like a wider, broader view of it, is by forgiving ourselves. And so then we can extend that compassion, we can extend that forgiveness to other men and see like the society has taught men to be this way, to be very aggressive, to be very like dominating, to feel like, to be very controlling, and to use their power to gain rather than to like give, and to provide a place of like this planet, if it's being run by men, should really be, especially this country, should be very prosperous. It should, like, women and children should be the top priority. Nature, Mother Earth should be the top priority. If the divine masculine was actually present in our system, like our government, or if these men were taught to use their power in a way for good rather than for gain. And so like I said, I would go out on walks, and so the masculine part of us is the one that's going to be, like I said, they're the hunter, they're the tracker, they're the navigator. So when you tap into your masculine energy, it's the part of you that's kind of seeing the broader perspective. It's like seeing out. Like the masculine part of us is kind of the strategizer. So they're going to they want to get the lay of the land. It's important for them to have that kind of they're not going to know everything specifically. That's why it's really important for them to rely on their instincts, to rely on their intuition, to rely more on their feminine energy who's present. So for me, I'm a very feminine energy. So it's really important for me to be present, but that can also be and that's my innocence, that's my purity, And for that part of us, we can believe, and we've been taught that part of us is naive, oh, we're so lolly-da in the moment that we're not seeing potential danger, and so that makes us so vulnerable, that makes us weak. But what you have to do is you have to be present, and you also have to see the bigger picture. So you have to use your gut instincts to also be a woman, but use your masculine energy to know, okay, so let's say you're out and about in some random town, okay? You're exploring, you're new there, let's say you are traveling. And, you're very present, so you're going to listen to your intuition. Let's say you're walking down the street and you're like, do I want to go this way? Do I want to go to the right, or do I want to go to the left? You're so present and you're so connected to your own spirit and to your higher source that if you stop and ask, okay, which way should I go? And you're instantly I'm just left. That feels right. Trusting that part of you, because maybe potential danger was on the right, and your instincts and your higher self were trying to protect you. So it's in the minuscule, the tiniest aspect of ourselves, when we're present, we're going to be led in our highest direction so that we're out of harm's way, because God, a higher power, wants to protect us just like a father would want to protect us. But because it's our eternal Father, it's a Father that can never be taken away from us. So that was why it's so important for me to connect with God, to connect with a higher source, to connect with a higher power, so that I could feel safe and I could have an eternal Father to help me feel stable and to help protect me. So while my Father can't always be here and couldn't always protect me, I have a higher source, a higher Father that can always guide me in the right direction if I'm willing to use my masculine energy and choose and take action on the advice that I'm being given through my own intuition. So it's really important to incorporate both your feminine and masculine energies as a way to create stability, and then you cultivate confidence and self-esteem, and you trust yourself more. That's what it's been about for me, is trusting my own instincts, because at an early age, we're taught to discard our instincts, to discard our intuition, to discard our emotions. But actually, it's when we're tapping into those and we're so deeply connected to those that we're able to make decisions that are going to lead us in our highest direction, because it's coming from a power even bigger than you. It's basically following your destiny. So it's making those little choices in every moment to choose to listen to the guidance you're receiving and take action on it, rather than maybe listening to your mind. So let's say, for example, we'll go back to, I'm in a foreign place, I'm traveling, I'm walking around the streets, and I'm guided to go left, but maybe you're so caught up. Let's say this is when you're caught up in your ego and fear is talking to you. So you're guided to go left, but the right looks more intriguing. It looks more, it looks more flashy, or it looks like there's more. That's the way you want it to go. That's the way your ego wanted to go. But your instincts, they're telling you to go, they're telling you to go left. But you wanted to go right. That was your idea. That was your plan. Your plan was to go right. That's your ego. Your plan was to go right. But your intuition is screaming at you to go left. And it's in that moment, in that present moment, that you choose to take action to go left or to go right. And you choose to, this is where we begin to believe, we know better, we know best, and so we choose to go with what the ego wants, what we had planned. And it's kind of the same aspect when we go throughout life, because a lot of us have been taught to plan our lives out, and we have to have a child by this time, and we have to have a house by this time, and we have to be married by this time, and we have to have a job by this time. And when things don't go our way, we can get emotionally derailed, and We can have catastrophic events happen because we're so fixated on our idea, our plan, that when something goes wrong or something doesn't go according to our plan, we might lose our shit and we might begin to freak out. But tapping into our like masculine energy will actually help us take action in the more fluid aspect of ourselves. So the more feminine aspect that's able to be flexible and kind of go with the flow. So, my plan is to go right. My plan is to go right. But, my instincts and my intuition are actually telling me to go left. So I can choose in that moment to go left and listen to my intuition, or I can choose to go right and try to manipulate, try to control, trying to make it go how I want to go. That's our very distorted masculine energy. And if we actually choose to do that, we're operating in the energy of fear. And so we're listening to our ego over we're listening to our heart and our guidance. So it's really important to learn how to trust yourself. And then as you begin to make those choices, like to go left and listen to your intuition over going right and choosing your mind, then you begin to develop confidence in God. You begin to develop trust in a higher power. So you begin to trust yourself and you begin to feel really good, and you begin to make new choices that align from your heart space rather than from your head space, because our head space, it's very logical and we obviously need it. It's very important. But when it's operating without your conscious awareness, without your direction, like our masculine energy is our direction. It's the part of us that knows exactly what we want and it knows exactly how to get it. But it's also like not going to happen in your mind, the plan you have for yourself. So you have to be willing to be flexible, and you have to be willing to be like adaptable to the ever-changing tides, because so many things are not going to go according to plan. And what we have to be able to do is shift through those things and take action instead of like dwelling. Let's say something doesn't go your way. It's important to feel your emotions. It's important to feel like grief, because maybe you were super attached to how it was supposed to go, or how this plan you had in your mind was supposed to go. You can apply this anyway, to however it applies to your life, or you have a certain plan for your life, or maybe there's been a time in your life where you thought something was going to go this way and then it just didn't, and you can get really caught up in your emotions and you think, oh, I'm a failure, I messed up, I wasted so much time. Instead of like dwelling on yourself and dwelling on that, it's like taking action and seeing it from a higher perspective and seeing, okay, I see that this was teaching me something, instead of like being so attached to the emotions. It's like really learning how to take a step back and recognizing that your emotions aren't who they are. They're just a reaction to the very rigid plan you had in your mind. So if we're in a very like distorted masculine energy, we're going to be very rigid, and so we're not going to be flexible. And then it's going to like create a lot of emotional tension, because our soul wants us to go with the flow. Our soul wants us to trust in the unknown, and that's really hard because we've been taught that like we have to have, like I said, we only feel safe or we only feel secure when maybe we have like a certain amount of money in the bank, or we have a secured job, or a 401k, or like a home or a mortgage. Those are ideas, those are belief systems that are actually really crumbling because you can't take them with you. They are temporary. So let's say you lost all those things. That's probably going to create a lot of emotional upheaval for you because you have such an attachment to the physical world, such an attachment to your home, such an attachment to your job, such an attachment to your bank account and to money as your stability, that if you lost that, then it might create a lot of disruption. And it's teaching you really to let go of that attachment to the physical, to let go of that attachment of what you believe stability is, and actually learning how to create stability on your own, creating the energy of stability within yourself, because that can never be taken away. So you will always feel stable, you will always feel safe, you will always feel secure, even if you didn't have those things, because you no longer believe that those things are what create stability, and you have the ability to create stability within yourself. And so you take action on how to create the energy of stability. Like I said, one of the ways that you can do that is positive affirmations, and like just building yourself up from the inside out. So creating a very strong foundation within yourself, and feeling very strong, feeling very powerful. That's why cultivating my health was really important for me, because cultivating my physical health really helps me feel very strong, and then it helps me feel mentally strong. And then when I'm mentally strong, I feel very emotionally strong, because where our mind is where our emotions will be. So if you can get your mind into this state that I am strong, I am stable, I am secure. If you tell yourself those things all the time, like, you're going to begin to embody that energy, and your body's going to be able to shift. It's going to begin to shift. And then as you shift that and you are in a prolonged state in your mind, if your intention is focused that I am strong, I am stable, I am secure, you will begin to feel your emotions, and you'll begin to feel your energy body begin to expand. And you'll begin to feel powerful, and you'll begin to feel unlimited, and you'll begin to feel limitless. And you'll be able to feel secure and safe in your own energy. So then when you feel really stable on the inside, you'll look outside and you'll see the stability everywhere. But let's say you feel really unstable inside. Then you're going to be searching. This is where lack mentality is going to come in. And because your ego is it's going to be like looking for the next shoe to drop. It's going to be looking for like all the potential things that could go wrong. And so your mind could really get into this frenzy, and you can always be thinking about what's going wrong, what's going to be happening, what's going to, what happens in anxious attachment is, like, let's say this, because I said I formed this from my father. So like I said, in a relationship, when you're an adult, and maybe you didn't even realize you formed this attachment to your father, but you'll begin to attract, situations in where you may actually end up sabotaging your relationship because you're obsessively thinking about how the relationship is going to end. You're obsessively thinking like how the relationship's going to fall apart, or you're creating scenarios where you're arguing, and then like you're just obsessed. You're obsessively thinking about everything that could go wrong, and that's just an attachment wound. So it's really about every time you find yourself obsessing over like worry or the worst case scenario, it's becoming aware enough to stop your thoughts and shift them to I am powerful, I am strong, I am valuable, I am stable, I am secure, shifting your mindset. And then you'll begin to feel yourself feel stable. And then you won't have to have this urge to be obsessively thinking or obsessively checking in with this person. And you can allow them, their space. You can allow yourself to have space. And then you're not like caught up in this. Like, because when you're constantly obsessed and worried about things, like, you're causing a lot of stress and a lot of tension, a lot of chaos in your body. And your body's not in the present moment. So it's really about... when you're having those obsessive thoughts and you have that deep attachment wound, because this could relate to abandonment wound, in my opinion, because it was like, oh my gosh, my father is going to leave, then we're not going to have a home, then we're not going to have any money, what if I'm living on the streets, like, these are thoughts I was having, like, as a kid, as, like, a child, as, like, a 6-year-old, that's not normal for a child to be thinking like that, and it causes a lot of tension, it causes a lot of mental health, and I was struggling with mental health. I had so much anxiety, I had so much, like, depression, and I didn't even realize it. I had so much fear, and I didn't know how to handle this as a child. And so I think it's really important to just get really clear on how you are taking action. Are you constantly obsessively thinking and not taking action? So if you find yourself in that state of like anxiousness and hypervigilance, and you're trying to control and you're trying to like figure things out, really taking action to move your energy into a new direction, by focusing kind of on your passions or focusing on your health, or it's like about focus, and really it's really about changing your focus. So how like a 2-year-old, you have to kind of like, you have to distract them. So they're doing something and it's like not really good for them, like they're playing with the outlet, like the electrical outlet, and you're like, no, that's not a good idea. So you just it's not distracting them, but what's the word? You just kind of veer them in a different path. You give them a toy to play with, or you say, hey, look at this book, and then they forget all about it, It's like moving them away from danger. But what we have to do is do this for ourselves. Oh, we see we're eating this food that's not making us feel good. Okay, let me shift and let me take action. Let me eat this food that I know is going to make me feel good. So it's like really parenting that inner child. And so really parenting yourself and really doing those things that... doing those things for yourself to make you feel secure, that maybe that your father couldn't, or that didn't know how. So it's really like taking action on taking care of yourself so that you feel stable. Like, get really clear. What makes you stable? What makes me feel stable? What makes me feel good? What makes me feel strong? What makes me feel healthy? And then taking action on those things And that will cultivate and develop your masculine energy, and you'll begin to feel very strong, you'll begin to feel very confident, and you'll begin to trust yourselves again. And I think that was the whole purpose, to be able to trust myself again, to be able to feel stable and safe on my own, to feel good in my own skin, to know that I was safe, that I wouldn't be harmed or hurt by the outside world, to know that I am provided for, that I am prosperous, that I am abundant, and that I can take care of myself. And so I am just grateful for my father wound. I'm grateful for all the things I've learned from my father wound, because it really taught me how to take my power back. And it'll just be something that I'm forever grateful for. So I hope this was helpful. I hope it maybe gave you a little bit of insight about maybe your own potential father wound and how you can help heal yourself, or how you can help yourself recognize those patterns within yourself and take action in a new direction. And I'm sending you so much love and so much light.